Hmm. Be, do, have? Or is it have, do, be?
$1,000,000 question. Hi, I'm Cam, holistic health coach, mom to 2 humans and 4 pets.
Hi, I'm Amelia, laboratory scientist by day and food scientist by night.
Welcome to our show.
Join us as we share our holistic approach to life after 50.
You can expect real life stories with a dash of humor and a ton of truth.
If it happens in midlife, we're going to talk about it. So hit that subscribe button and follow along.
We're the Midlife Mommas.
It is the $1,000,000 question, Cam. What are we talking about today that we have to decide these things?
Well, we're talking about fitness in 2024 and like how to get our mindset right so we can accomplish our fitness goals and our health goals. That's what we're talking about.
That is awesome. And I love the way this is structured because we're going to talk to you today about your mindset. We had a wonderful conversation about mindset a couple of weeks ago with Amy Lang. If you haven't listened to that, please go back and listen to it because a lot of what we talk about in midlife has to do with framing your mind. So we're going to talk about it with respect to fitness.
And, really, once you get that right, all the other things fall into place. And if poop hits the fan, because it's going to hit the fan, at least you have some strategy and you can reframe it and learn more about yourself and instead of going down the deep, dark tornado tunnel of bad thoughts.
Right, exactly. Because once we're down there, it's really easy to keep beating ourselves up and saying, is this really worth it? And we don't want to go there. So let's dive into it. Let's dive into this challenge.
Yeah. So the challenge is most people focus on the outcome of the goal, the have part, if you will, rather than the process of achieving the goal. It's a journey. It's an adventure. And that process, you can learn a lot about yourself, like what works and what doesn't work. So enjoy the journey.
Absolutely. And even back from my triathlon days, I'm a process-oriented person anyway, and I know that about myself. I'm not visionary. In business or whatever, my hat's off to you, Cam, because I don't know that I could ever be an entrepreneur because I don't have vision like that. So I'm process-oriented anyway. But I think for people that are really, truly goal-oriented and they look in the direction of that goal, this may be a challenge, but guess what? There's no do-overs. We have this one life to live, so we have to enjoy the process or you're miserable all the time. So who wants that?
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to actually start with the wrong way, if you will, or the stuck way or the closed mindset or not growth mindset. We're going to start there so you can identify it and see it in yourself because gosh knows we've been there. So we're going to start. Oh yeah. We're going to start with the have, the do, and the be. So here's an example. Once I have this, whatever this is, maybe it's a weight on the scale or a lift, amount of weight you're going to lift. Then I'll do this, whatever you want to do with your life, and then I'll be happy. So you're delaying your happiness until you can do that thing or have that thing.
Yeah, here's another one. If I had more motivation, then I would exercise and be healthier.
So
that's a tough one.
Yeah, so you're waiting on motivation. Really, if you want to be healthier, you want to be healthier. What do you need to do? You need to eat and exercise a certain way, right? And then you're going to have more motivation because you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to see something different and you're going to have more energy and you're going to feel amazing. That's your motivation.
Absolutely. And here's my favorite one. Here's my favorite one, Cam. Once the scale says this way, I'll do the things I want to do in midlife and be happy. Oh man.
Oh my
gosh. That's such a joy killer. And I hear it. I hear that not all the time, but I hear it from women who are really they've got this one pair of jeans. And I don't know why it's always jeans. It always seems to be jeans. And I've done it myself. It's like, I got to get in these jeans. And until I do, I'm just unhappy and, I'm cranky all the time. That's such a waste. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah. Well, first, jeans are hard pants. Remember that.
That's true. Hard pants. That's right.
Hi, Danielle in Arizona. That's your term. So let's go back to the story. Once you got into the jeans, were you happy? Did that make you happy?
No, exactly. And, I've done it also, honestly, with if I get to a certain pay rate, or if I can
Mm,
have this thing, whether it's a type of car or a whatever, it never, ever works. It never works because you spend so much time trying to chase this thing. And then when you get there, I got to be honest, Cam, even when I did Ironman, it was that way. So
mm-hmm,
with the first one, it was truly euphoric for a while, but that sense of accomplishment actually does fade because you got to keep living. You got to keep doing things. So it really is a tough mindset to break. But once you kind of come down off that, you're like, I can do things without achieving. Let's see, I'm fumbling for words here. I can be happy
mm-hmm.
without doing this thing or being this first, I guess
Yeah.
is what I'm
I
saying.
had a similar experience with the CrossFit. Like I accidentally qualified for the Masters qualifier, like accidentally. And then I went for it. And then I over exercised. And then I was injured. And my recovery, because I was like, oh, this is amazing. Really, when I was just being an athlete and it just happened that I happened to qualify for this thing. But when I went after it with guts, and I'm going to do this, and I overtrain myself. So I understand what you're saying. Like, instead of just being that person, being the athlete and enjoying the journey, I was trying to get to the destination and it made me sick. So not a good idea.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And I've heard of that more than one time, that in the
Mm-hmm.
process of trying to achieve this goal, you really do sacrifice a piece of yourself, which is sad.
Yeah. So here's where we're going to flip it. In order to
Okay.
let's flip this stuff around. In order to reach your goals, you need to be that person that's going to go do those things. So who do you need to be? What do you need to go do? And believe it or not, you're going to have the things you're going to have, but you start from the being part and you enjoy the process to getting to the have part.
That's really good. So let's flip the weight thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to lose weight and keep it off, that's what you have.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be the person who is mindful of what they eat and the way that they prioritize things. And that's the do part. So yeah, it is. I think for me, I do that now, but
Mm-hmm.
it took a little bit of time to
Mm-hmm.
kind of change those thought patterns.
Yeah. So let's dive into the B part. So B is like, what do you need? Who do you need to be to reach your goals? Like, what are your identities? I like to think of values. Like right
Mm.
now, being healthy is my thing. I need to be healthy, right? And so what am I going to do in order to be healthy? Am I going to eat a bag of chips on the sofa, or am I going to come down to the gym and lift some weights? Like those are my choices, right?
Right. And do you find yourself sometimes, even when you don't really believe the B part, that you tell yourself
Mm.
that anyway? There's a part of this self-talk that's like, I am this person. You kind of have to, I have to keep telling myself that a little
Oh,
bit.
sure. Yeah. It happened this morning. I came down and got on the exercise bike, which literally I had to dust off and I did it like this morning. Normally, when I'd sit on the couch and drink coffee before church, I came down here and rode it for 20 minutes. It didn't kill me. Like it was okay. I still brought my coffee down here, but it was like, I'm going to be this person. So that person would go downstairs and dust off that bike and get on there for 20 minutes. And I did it. It was the only time I could fit it in today. And so I
Yeah.
had a choice. Do I do it like earlier than normal or not at all? So I chose to do it.
Yeah, and little things like that are, a little is better than nothing at all. So I read that
Mm,
on Instagram actually today. I forgot there's a guy that I have been following recently. I think he's a doctor, but anyway, it's talking about, you know, and this kind of goes into choose your hard too,
mhm,
but the little bit is fine. Like we don't have to go run 5 miles today to actually move our bodies. So just
mhm.
doing that thing, and I do love that.
Yeah, so be that person. Who is that person? You know what you want. Be that person. Yeah.
And,
Well,
I think sometimes writing that down is helpful too. If you're a person who journals, write it down and write it in the present tense.
mhm,
I am this. And I think
mhm,
we've talked about this before, but I am this person. Not I want to be, but I am this person. I am healthy. I am fit. I am smart. I mean, whatever the thing is, just go ahead and own it right now. I mean, who's to say you're not that anyway? Nobody gets to judge you. You judge yourself. So why not just say I am this?
and that's the problem. We judge ourselves and we're so stinking mean to ourselves.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
totally.
And from the affirmation word, anytime you start a sentence with I am, that is very, very powerful. And I love the idea of writing that down. Yeah. So there you go. There's your B part.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about the do part. So if we have decided that we are this person, that we are a healthy person, then we think about, what does a healthy person do?
Absolutely. And so those are our actions, So what do I need to do in order to be that person? And you get to choose whatever you want to be, or excuse me, whatever you want to do.
Exactly. And if you're a person who doesn't have a regular exercise routine now, and you want to be that person, and you say, I am a person who is healthy, and that means I exercise regularly. If I go out for a walk, even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, doing that a few times a week is action. And I find, Cam, that action always makes me feel better. No matter what it is, if I do something, I always feel better.
I agree with you 100%. And if you need to schedule it, schedule it. We were talking about that before we hit record. Do you have anything to add about being flexible?
Absolutely. Because I'm that person. Like, I know we have listeners and I have friends who say, if I don't plan ahead and I don't schedule it on my calendar, I won't do it. And if I actually do that, I have the opposite problem. I beat myself up really bad if I don't get to it. So for me, it's a little bit of a looser thing, but that's where I think knowing yourself and knowing how you cope and what your bandwidth is, what your flexibility is. And honestly, Cam, like today, I feel great. Yesterday, I was super tired. And so there was a lot of things I didn't get done yesterday that I was able to get done today. So for me, flexibility is a little bit harder, and I need to be a little kinder to myself and not overschedule, because I tend to do that.
Yeah. Overscheduling is no good. And I agree. All of us should be kinder to ourselves. Like, check your thoughts. Like, what are you saying to yourself? And would you say that to your friend? Probably not.
Exactly.
So stop it. Yeah. And then the have part is like, healthier. Like, that's really my values. Like, I want to be healthier. It's not a number on the scale. It's not a pair of jeans anymore. Maybe those were old goals, but that is not it. Like, when I get my blood test done, I want an A.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
So I love that. What do you want to have or achieve? The goals, are the results of the process. And this is a process. Life itself is a process. And let's face it, as long as we're, the end of the process is 6 feet under, and I don't want to be there. It's always a process. So, and I think that most people, if they can manage the mindset, once they've achieved that goal, they do feel good, but it's not an end all be all. It's not the end. And I think that's an important distinction. It's just a milestone, as it were.
Yeah, it's really about the process, and then if you're wishing your whole midlife away, trying to get in a pair of jeans, and then you're 6 feet under, that is not good.
No,
we don't want
all.
That. No. Yeah. And the other thing about it does not have to be perfect. Like, mishaps are going to happen. You're going to step off the path. That's life. We're human. Offer yourself grace. And with this model, it offers you an opportunity to learn something about yourself. And I think that's beautiful. Like,
of course.
Yeah. When you have new understanding about what triggers you or what empowers you, that's amazing.
Absolutely. So let's just talk about, like, now that we've talked about the mindset, let's just talk about if you have stepped off the path, if you're new or returning from an exercise break, because that can be really difficult.
Yeah. And if you're just starting out and you're coming back from those places, maybe it's an injury, getting to the walking part is so important. And all through my 40s, Amelia, I never thought walking was important. Did you remember feeling that way?
Oh, totally. I didn't even think it counted as exercise. And interestingly enough, about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I went to a new optometrist, and I knew this man from our community had been an ultra runner. I had no idea how old he was. I was guessing he was about my age, but he was like, haven't we met in running circles or whatever? And I was like, as a matter of fact, I think so. He is not running at all anymore. And he didn't specify whether he had suffered an injury, like a running ending or career ending injury. But he's like, my wife and I just walk now. And it is a beautiful thing. It's moving your body. You get out in nature, or at least I do. Because I don't have a treadmill, but yeah, I didn't used to think of it as exercise. And now I look forward to it, not just for the movement, but for the experience of being outside. And it's great. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, and I really think it's also part of my stress management plan,
Mm.
which I think is a non-negotiable. We talked about hydration, which is, last week's podcast. So hydration is a non-negotiable, sleep is non-negotiable, and the stress management. So I would put walking in that bucket for myself, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a statistic about daily movement and metabolism. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so there's about 30% of our metabolism that changes on a daily rate. So 10% of that is our food. So we use calories to digest our food. So 10% is that. 15% is actually moving, like walking and doing low stress activities. So anytime you're just moving your body, standing at your desk or walking your dog, anything that's low stress would fall into the movement category, which is called non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Fancy,
Wow,
neat.
that is fancy.
Fancy, I know. Usually you're saying the fancy words. It's the largest part of our changeable daily metabolism. It's a really, really big deal. So taking a walk is important.
I do love that. And bonus, it keeps hunger. Well, you said stress, but keeps hunger at bay. So that's
Mhm.
another thing I've noticed. If I'm moving, like for instance, this weekend I did a little bit of light house cleaning, just like vacuuming.
Yep.
I did clean my bathroom, and that I wasn't even thinking about eating.
Mhm.
And whereas if I'm not active, I've got food on my brain all the time. So it is helpful to kind of keep my food thoughts a little bit more realistic.
Well, sure. And that's also nodding to like cardio. If you've ever done intense cardio,
Oh
which I know
yeah.
you have, that
Yeah.
definitely increases your hunger. This is not that kind of movement. This is just like moving your body through time, space, and gravity. It's, if you track your daily steps, it's that kind of thing. It's
Oh
very
yeah.
low stress and low hunger, which is really a big deal.
Yeah, it totally is. But there's other things we can do to as far as exercise. What's the next thing that you recommend?
Yeah. So once you're walking, the next thing is to get some weight training in. And so it doesn't have to be crazy. In fact, it's not crazy. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how much warm up and cool down you want to do. And it's twice a week. And the beautiful thing about this in particular, exercise it falls into the exercise bucket, which is about 5% of your daily calories falls in the exercise bucket. Now, I want to talk about diet culture for a second because did you grow up thinking that exercise was way more impactful than 5% of your metabolism?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, I literally would exercise so I could eat. Like
Yeah.
that was a complete thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love strength training because it also influences your resting metabolic rate. So that's the 70% that's pretty much the same every day in, day out. And the more muscle you have on your body, the more calories you burn. Muscle is expensive, we say, to keep around. We got to be intentional about it. So it's awesome because it builds into your future 70% resting metabolic rate, but also builds into today's 5% exercise rate. So it's kind of like a double whammy.
Absolutely. And I know we've talked about this before because I think we've done whole episodes on strength training, Cam, but just give us a little peek at what that would look like. Like, do we do for the twice a week? Do we divide it up? Do we do kind of total body? What would you recommend?
Yeah, it's total body. So they'll be pushing and pulling in different planes, squatting and hinging like that. When I write a program, there's actually 6 movement patterns. So I'm making sure that you're getting all of those things in the course of a week. So yeah, you want to do enough reps to stress your muscles enough so that they grow in the recovery. So that's important. You can't go in there.
It is important. And my sciencey brain is going back to the fact that lifting weights also prevents osteoporosis and it helps your bone health. So I don't know if anyone listening has a mom or an aunt or a grandmother that has a very stooped posture or has fallen and broken a hip. That generation of women were not big into weights. I mean, literally. So the way my mom lifts weights is she has a push mower. So she mows her lawns with a push mower. And so, it's a pushing thing, but, and she does her own cleaning. But for those of us that are informed and willing to do it, it's definitely a way to keep our bone health, which I think is super important. I certainly don't want to need to be laid up with a hip fracture or anything like that.
Yeah. And then you can also add the blood sugar effect. So
sure.
It definitely reduces your need for insulin. The more muscles you have, the more places you have to store your blood sugar. So there's just so many benefits for your brain. I could go on and on. So those are like the two things: get moving and then get lifting weights. Those are your two first steps.
Absolutely. But rest does have a role in this too. Is that right?
Oh yeah. In fact, we need more rest now that we're in midlife and menopause. And so 2 full rest days between your strength days gives your body time to recover and actually let your muscles recover and grow. So that would be like a Monday, like a Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday. So like Monday, Wednesday, Friday is like, or Tuesday, Thursday, those are like old patterns, and those that might not be enough rest for you now. So if you're still doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and you're like, why am I so exhausted? It might be that you need an extra day in between those.
Exactly. And you know what, Cam, as we're talking about rest, when I was a triathlete, I termed rest as the days that I didn't actually work out. But I have found, my job isn't new anymore. I've been in it 2 years, but some weeks are very stressful. So some weeks rest for me, it's not just about not working out, but it's about some real quiet time, maybe more time on the couch. And a lot of times that's Friday evening. Saturday is more of a Sabbath day. I kind of take that day off. I actually do most of my cleaning on Sunday, but I feel like such a huge difference. I mean, when I'm really fatigued from a stressful work week, my workouts aren't as good and I'm just crabby. Like I know my sleep quality seems to be good, but my body is tired.
Yep.
So spending time in a restful state, you may like to watch Netflix or you may want to read. And I'm not advocating this for the whole weekend, but there may be, a couple of hours or an afternoon. And I found that to be super beneficial. And I told myself when I first started that pattern, that's not, I need to be productive, but now I'm seeing the benefit of this restful pattern on the weekend. And I love it.
Yeah, because go is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form, and we are not multitaskers anymore. We got to put that down for sure. Yeah, and I agree with you. You're actually doing like a deload. That's what we call it in the gym, where you're not lifting as much, where you're giving your body a break, and so you've actually naturally done that. That's exactly what it's called. It's a deload.
Deload.
So,
I'm gonna say I'm gonna tell my husband I'm deloading now. That's a great term. But I mean, let's talk a little. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's the point of rest and recovery is so when you are in the gym, you're making the most for the minutes that you're in there, that you are using the best form that you can, and you are lifting the heaviest weight you can. And if you are running on empty, those things are not going to happen. You're more likely to get injured. You're not going to be lifting as heavy. The form's not going to be dialed in. So giving yourself break and just doing this twice a week and then rest days in between will be beneficial, I promise.
And if you are in that pattern, like I have been at times in my life, when I'm forced to rest, because years ago I didn't listen to my body and I would get injured or get sick. I didn't suffer injury so much as illness. I would get a cold at the drop of a hat. It was crazy. But when I would get back to it, I was like, wow, why didn't I listen? Because I feel so much better. You know what I mean? Like you really feel that quality there.
Yeah. Pushing, but stop the pushing. Stop.
100%. And I mean, let's also talk about cardio because we've touched on that many times on the podcast. And I think we've probably got some listeners whose histories are akin to ours that are really into that. But does cardio now have a place in our midlife? Midlife?
Yeah, it does. I like to think of it as the salt and the pepper, the condiment, if you will. It does not need to be the main show. Diet culture told us it was the main show, and that's not true. It's really strength training and walking, in my opinion. So I like to let the cardio be your fun. Like if you love to play tennis or pickleball or, something like that, let that be your fun. Let cardio, just a dash. We don't want to stress ourselves out too much.
Yeah. And I found that this summer, Cam, it was my fun. I rode a lot of miles with my husband and with my daughter there at the end of the summer. And I don't regret it, but I did see that it was taking a toll on me. So I got to be honest, I might ride a bunch of miles next summer and just build up so that we can ride with her for pleasure. And I run with my husband, and to say run, it's very slow, but it's not walking. We run once a week and he really enjoys it. And so do I. So that's our date. But it's no longer, I mean, I used to run 3 times a week plus cycling and swimming when I was doing triathlon. And I absolutely cannot imagine that anymore.
This summer, when you were riding more, did you notice any side effects, if you will, from doing extra cardio?
Well, the biggest thing is I put on weight. And I know we talked about that with regard to cortisol response. That's the biggest thing. My sleep was affected a little bit, not as much as I would have suspected. My appetite, I got to be honest with you, I don't remember it being much greater because the intensity of the workout wasn't tremendous.
Mhm.
But I also tracked how long I rode and tried to get enough calories to support that.
Yeah, so you had some information about yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah. Actually, next week we're going to talk all about cortisol. So bring that story back in next week. And
Yeah.
we'll talk about cortisol again. Yeah, and the reason why I add cardio last is because we're trying to like rewire our brains on the diet culture of eat less, exercise more. And I just want to show you another way of doing fitness and then just sprinkle in the cardio instead of
Yeah.
relying on it as the main dish. That's all.
Yeah, and I mean, I got to be honest. There have been times where I was feeling really good, where that cardio, I did get an endorphin, like that runner's
Mhm.
high, which doesn't have to be when you're running. It could be another sport. And I've got some friends that are tennis players, and I've asked them, and they play a lot of tennis, and they seem to really enjoy it. And I don't really get into the weeds. It's so much with the good or the bad, but if they're doing that for fun, maybe that's okay for them. I don't play tennis. I don't play with anything with a ball because my hand-eye coordination is so bad. But good for them, and I love the fact that they're doing something that they enjoy.
Yeah. So that's just kind of how I sum it up. I call this the midlife muscle protocol, if you will. But it really to focus on the strength training and the walking and then more rest and then sprinkle in your cardio, whatever makes you happy and smile.
Yeah, I mean, in the last couple of months, Cam, I'm walking more,
Mhm.
and just as part like. I don't always count it as exercise per se. I know at one time you had said
Mhm.
something about if you put on different clothes or,
Yeah.
what constitutes exercise versus
Right.
movement. And at this point, I'm not even sure I need to count the difference other than get my strength training in. But like our habit right now is my husband and I, before the time change, we walked many nights after dinner and we love that. And then for some reason on Monday morning, we get up super early and walk for 30 minutes. I don't know why. It's a weird day of the week to start your Monday. Maybe it's because we want to jumpstart Monday, but I found that really helpful.
Yeah.
Like 2 to 4 times a week to add 20 minutes of walking
Mhm.
has just made a big difference in how I feel. I'm sleeping way better.
Mhm.
And it's not even that I'm always walking after dinner, but somehow that extra walking has helped my sleep.
Yeah. So if you're just walking, having conversation, you're not like breathless and like sweating, pitting out, then I would call that more movement than exercise.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I delineate the two is because I don't want people over exercising. And so you have to find
Right.
your balance, I guess, is, part of the discovery.
Sure. It's funny because my daughter, I think both of my daughters wear some sort of fitness watch. I don't know if it's Apple or whatever. And when my older daughter we were walking when she was home for Thanksgiving, and she got back and said, "Oh, Mom, we walked in whatever the time was. It was pretty fast." And she's not real tall. So we were just moving along. And I was sweating.
right.
Like, I mean, it was cold and we had on coats, but I was still sweating under all of that. But she was proud of us. She was like, "We really worked hard."
Yeah, that's how it is
cute.
when I walk with Dan. He's got his stuff on and he's tracking with his phone and his watch. And yeah, that would fall more into exercise. And so I'm mindful if I'm
Right.
going with him and he's in that mode, not the after dinner mode, but like I'm walking for
Yeah.
exercise mode. I just have to be aware. Like, where's my energy?
Right. And I think that's a really good point, right? Like, because if you've had a stressful day or a long day or you didn't sleep well, maybe even that might be too much. I don't
Mhm.
know. Like, I
Mhm.
think the rules are so different and we have to be respectful because I pushed those boundaries especially my 30s and my 40s somewhat too. It was crazy. I was a crazy person.
Me too. We did it. And we're just trying to help you out now in our 50s.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you think about what 2024 might hold, I hope you'll really look to see who you are first and be that person you want to be, and then plan out the activities so that it achieves that.
Yeah, and just enjoy the journey because the destination is always a moving target.
100%. I love it.
Thanks for listening today. You can find us on Instagram at midlife.mommas.
For all of our other contact info, check out the show description below, and we will talk to you next week.